Y'all know what's going on. It's time for another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker. And check this out, y'all. The other night, I was watching Law and Order SUV, and it was about this dude that was going around the city forcing people to be involved with him in a sexual way, right? I'm avoiding saying certain words because, I can get flagged for that on YouTube. So I'm trying to be very, very careful, but you know what I'm talking about, right? Now, this dude was like big dude, 6'6", 300 plus pounds, and he was forcing himself on people, young people, older people. It didn't matter, you know what I'm saying? He was just forcing himself on them. And he ended up getting caught and getting sent to prison. And that sparked a conversation with one of my friends in here about, what happens when somebody like that comes into prison and is put in the room with somebody. What happens in situations like that, right? Because society is protected from this individual, but the people in prison are not. This person is set free in here to do what it is that he does. Now, let me explain that to you. You know what I'm saying? In this episode, I want you to really lean back and try to pay attention to what I'm saying because this is real stuff, right? I understand that the bigger picture is society needs to be protected from this individual. But what about people in here that want to just come in here, do their time, get out and go home and continue to live their lives? Because I got a story for you about a situation similar to this. This guy wasn't as big as this guy that was on SUV, but it's almost identical to, what I'm saying, what was going on out there, right? So sit back, relax, y'all, and enjoy this show, right? Because this is going to be one of those unique episodes that hopefully enlightens you to, another aspect of prison that you may not be aware of, right? One of my partners that I got to know real well, at another institution, he's like 5'2", 5'2" tall, and mild mannered dude, cool as he could be, didn't bother nobody. He had about 12, 15 years to do though, and he ended up in a cell by himself for about 2 or 3 months. And lo and behold, there was this guy that got sent to prison that was huge. He wasn't, like I say, he wasn't as big as the guy that was on Law and Order SUV. He wasn't 6'6", but he was huge, chunky huge too. And he got put in the cell with this brother. And he was in prison for rape. Now here's the thing. This situation wasn't a situation like he was messing with, he's young and just a few years older than the girl he might have been messing with or the boy might have been messing with. This dude was a serial rapist, terrorizing people of all ages, all backgrounds, all of that, right? He just didn't care. He enjoyed doing it. And they put this guy in the cell with somebody that was way smaller than him and almost fit the profile of the type of individuals that he was assaulting on the streets. Right? Now, my partner wasn't a slouch or anything like that, but let's just be real. He's a little dude. He'll take care of his business, and if he had to, he'll pick up the pocket knife to do it. But the reality is, he had no win with dude. So this is how this thing played out. And I didn't even become aware of this until after it had happened. You feel what I'm saying? But let me tell you how this thing played out. And this is how he gave it to me. When they first put dude in the cell with him, right? Dude was mild-mannered. He was trying to be respectful and all of these types of things, right? Breaking bread with him, all of that. But he was filling him out. That's what he was doing. He was trying to see if the little dude, had a pocket knife. He was trying to see how cool he was with the police. He was trying to see how cool he was with everybody else in the pod. And he was trying to see how he conducted himself in the room. For example, in the penitentiary, when you have a cellie, when you get out of the shower, your cellie exit the room unless it's lockdown time. And if it's lockdown time, then he'll lay on the bunk, turn toward the wall so he can't see you, getting dressed. That kind of thing. Because most of the time when you're coming from the shower, you keep shorts on anyway. That way you're already ready in case something pops off. So when you get back to the room, you're not totally naked. You see what I'm saying? But this is how this dude was. When my partner would get back to the cell, he was expecting dude to automatically get up and leave. My partner would have to tell him, look, let me get the room so I can get dressed. He was like, nah, man, it's okay. Don't worry about it, man. I ain't even paying no attention to you. I'm watching TV. Now, the first couple of times he said that to my partner was like, nah, I feel better if you just get out, man. And he would get up and leave the room. After a couple of months, he was like, man, go on and get dressed, man. Ain't nobody paying no attention to you, man. I'm watching TV, man. I don't want to get up in the middle of my show. So even though my partner felt uncomfortable, he went on and did it because he felt like, dude tried to get a little aggressive, so he didn't want to go there with him. He looking at it like, okay, he don't mind, I don't mind. But what dude was doing, he was watching it. Because he said he caught him looking at his periphery a couple of times, watching him while he was putting lotion on his legs. You know what I'm saying? And he could have sworn he saw dude lick his lips. So he's like, dang. So now at this time, keep in mind, he didn't bring this to me then. This was after the assault that he brought it to me. But anyway, let me continue to tell you how he laid the foundation to assault him. Then after that, he started pushing on him to the point to where it was like, man, I'm trying to get some sleep, man. Could you turn the light off and the TV so I can go on and go to sleep? So my partner would like, no, I'm watching TV. So he would start to get more and more aggressive to the point to where he established a time that it's lights out time. Turn off the TV, the light, go to sleep. He had pushed my partner into a situation where it's like he took over the cell. Now the cell doesn't belong to any particular person, but normally, the person that was living there first, you know what I'm saying, the person that's coming in usually adapts to the rules of the person that's already been in there. You know what I'm saying? So everything can stay smooth. So that didn't happen in this situation. And then he went even further after a few months to tell my partner that he had to move to the top rack and he wanted the bottom rack. Again, my partner was resistant to it at first, but dude got slick because my partner went to the unit manager. The unit manager said, no, you don't have to move. So dude got slick, went to the nurse and said his back was hurting. They wrote him an AVO for a bottom bunk, and until they could find him another room to move in for a bottom bunk, they made my partner move to the top bunk, and he ended up on the bottom bunk. Why is that important? Because if he's got him on that bottom bunk, right? If he can get on that bottom bunk legally, then when the police walks by and sees him on that bottom bunk, it won't be an alarm to him. Because if he was on the top bunk and the police saw him on the bottom bunk, they would say, why are you on that bunk? But now he's on the bottom bunk. And he needed that bottom bunk because that's where he's going to end up assaulting my partner. Right? So now, there was another step that he had taken trying to get to the point to where he can carry out his deeds. But here's the thing. A lot of people don't pay attention to, the assaults that happen in here. This predator that was on the streets is taken off the streets, and he should have been, and it protects society. But when he gets put in here, he doesn't get put in any programs that help him, deal with what's going on. Plus, he's put in the cell with anybody that the institution decides he should be in the cell with. Now, back then, they didn't have these protocols that they do now, to where they check to see what kind of charge you got. They check to see if it's going to be some kind of imbalance towards who's going to be sellers, like a bigger person with a small. They didn't do that back then. This is recent. So anyway, let me get back to the story. So now after a few more months, he's starting to assert himself in the cell in a way to where he goes on my partner's shelf. Saying, I needed to use your toothpaste. I got a bag of potato chips from him. So now my partner comes to me and he says, man, I'm going to have to deal with dude. And I'm like, what you mean? He said, man, dude pushing, man. He trying to really push me out the cell. He didn't think the dude was trying to assault him. He thought dude was trying to push him out the cell. And I said, man, you need some help? He was like, no, I got it. Now keep in mind, my partner 5'2", but he ain't no joke. He got that butcher. He willing to go, all this and that, right? But he wasn't really thinking that this dude was going to assault him. Now check this out. After a few more weeks, this dude that had moved into the cell, he started cooking meals. Now he's making the meals and all this and that. And back then, a lot of us, we used to make tea, put it in a little tumbler and put it in the windowsill, you know what I'm saying, so it, could ferment all day. Not ferment, but basically like, you know how you make tea at home? You put the tea bag in the big old thing, you set it in the windowsill so the sun can kind of cook it, basically. We do the same thing in here. So dude had a nice little jug of tea, had the thing fermenting and whatnot, cooking. I keep saying ferment, but it wasn't fermenting. I'm thinking about making liquor, y'all. I'll tell you a story about that another time. But anyway, he's got the tea in there in the windowsill, but he's already put something in it. It kind of knocked my partner out, making woozy, right? So my partner come in, he's like, man, I done cooked us a meal, this and that. And he said, I want to apologize to you, man, the way I've been acting, man. I've been tripping, all this and all that, right? And all he was doing was trying to get my partner to lower his guard. Because at the end of the day, this dude that was a predator on the street was still a predator, but he was in a new hunting ground. He was trying to figure out all of the weak spots, all of the ways that he could manipulate and get himself in a position so he could continue to carry out the sickness that's inside of him. That's all he wanted to do. Now keep in mind, my partner is 5'2". 5'2". 5'2" tall. He probably didn't weigh 160, 150 pounds. He worked out, but come on, man, this dude is 300 plus. 6'4", 6'5", big dude. But not physically fit, but fat dude. You know what I'm saying? Grimy dude. Don't mean nobody no good. So my partner's drinking the tea. They eating, watching TV, and he's sitting down on the bottom bunk. See, when you get cool with somebody, right, because they bunk beds, you might break bread, break a meal, both of y'all sitting on the bottom bunk. You feel what I'm saying? And ain't nothing unusual about that, because sometimes you sit on the bottom bunk to play chess and all this and that, all that old kind of stuff. So, my partner trying to be cool with him, you know what I'm saying, and all this and that. So they sitting down there eating. And lo and behold, it's when it happens. As the story came to me, he rubbed him on his knee, put his hand on his knee. And when he did that, my partner was like, man, what's going on with you? Don't be touching on me. So before my partner even realized it, he backhanded him. And he hit him so hard, it knocked him out. One lick, one backhand, it knocked him out. Because he was already woozy from the tea. He's knocked out. And this is when he starts to assault him. He's pulling his clothes off of him. And he's still beating him up. He's unconscious already. But he's beating him up to make sure if and when he wakes up, he's going to be too weak to do anything. So he gets him naked. And when he flips him over, about ready to do what he does, fortunately for my partner, the officer happened to be making his rounds, and he sees it, and he hits the door, and he said, cut that light on. And as he's saying cut the light on, the officer, because it's a light switch outside the cell, the officer is fumbling with the switch as well to cut it on. He hits the switch, and it comes on. And he sees my partner is not looking right. He ain't got no clothes on, and he on the bottom bunk, and he's supposed to be on the bottom bunk because he's been moved to the top bunk. He said, why are you on the bottom bunk? He don't know my partner knocked out. He said, why are you on the bottom bunk? My partner don't move. And the officer opens the door. And now he gets a better look, because dude tried to cover my partner up with the blanket. Now he gets a better look. He said, why is he doesn't have any clothes on? So immediately the officer hits the button. He doesn't know what's going on necessarily, but he knows that, that's not allowed. Whether it's consensual or not, ain't no consensual sex in here. You understand? He hits the button. Here they come. When they get down there, because the officer's just standing in the door, he's not letting anybody move, and he's got them, both of them standing there. The big dude is standing up. My partner's still laying on the bed. He has not even realized yet that my partner is unconscious. So when the captain and the lieutenants get down there, they yell and say, get up off of that bed. And he don't move. So the lieutenant steps through and he grabs him and flips him over. You know, it's kind of aggressively, right? Because they think he's being disobedient, not compliant. And when he flips him over, he sees that he's been beaten. And that's when the lieutenant said, "What happened to him?" And then the big dude is looking at him and saying, "I don't know what happened to him." So that's when the captain said, "Turn around." And they put handcuffs on the big dude. He said, "Get the nurses down here." The nurses come down there and they take him up out. They take my partner up out there, take him to the clinic. He got bruises all over him. Dude had done beat him. And he's still not fully awake. So they keep him in the infirmary overnight. And when he finally gets his bearings, he tells them what happened. And then this is the part I don't understand. They put him in the hole too, pending investigation. But he's more like safekeeping, and the other dude is like pending investigation for an assault. They got him in the back, and they got my homie in the front part of the hole. So that's separated. So as the story comes out, he lays it out to them and tells them what happened and what's been happening in the cell. And that's when he finds out that dude was in there for sexual assault. And it never made sense to me how somebody like that on the streets can be terrorizing people, then they send them to the penitentiary and don't tell nobody what's going on with them. On the streets, a predator in the neighborhood, they're going to put signs up, they're going to let the neighbors know. You come to the penitentiary, unless you saw it on the news or you can see that person's timesheet, you have no idea who you're in the room with. You have no idea what's going on with them. And that's what I mean by a person that can get treated differently in here when it comes to those types of situations than you would out there. It's almost like this is prison and we got to do more to protect, you know what I'm saying, what people are in here for versus, you know what I'm saying, protecting the whole. On the streets, you're more concerned about protecting the community. In prison, you're more concerned about protecting the individual that's still a predator. And that's backwards. I'm not saying that people should be told what each other's charges are or anything like that. What I am saying is that before you become roommates with somebody, it should be understood what's going on. Those two individuals should be brought into the unit manager's office and explained to, this is what it is. And it better not be no shenanigans. And most definitely you shouldn't be putting somebody in the cell that's that big versus that small when this person is a predator and this person is kind of like his type. Let's say it like that. Let's say it like that. Because he was, look here, another few minutes and then it would have been really bad. It would have been really bad. And that's the problem. You can't have situations like that. The same level of protection that you have on the streets, they need in here. Because it's almost like people are given not permission, but leeway to continue to participate or continue to act out their criminal ways, their predatory ways in here. And if they get away with it, they get away with it. Why? Because in this environment, let me tell you something. Let me tell you another reason why I think my partner didn't come to me and tell me immediately, right? Because we heard about the talking and stuff after he went to the clinic, after he got out of the hole, but it still took him a while to come to talk to me. And he told me, he said, "Man, I didn't say nothing to you because I was embarrassed. People might believe he did, you know what I'm saying, actually rape me." And then he said, "I didn't want nobody to think that about me. Plus, after he, beat me up and all this and that, everybody thinking now that they can beat me up and they can do this and that." And I'm like, I wouldn't have never thought that. I would have never thought that about you, first of all. Second of all, you know what I'm saying, that stigma that's attached to people in here that are sexually assaulted, that's what keeps them from coming and talk to people about it, because they feel ashamed. And that's one of the reasons it took him a while for him to get the nerve up to come to talk to me. I didn't want to go to him because I didn't want him to feel like I was pushing the issue. But the next time anything like that happened to somebody I know, or even if I think it happened like that, I'm going to go to them and I'm going to push the issue. Because I don't like that kind of stuff. But when you're in here, you get put in situations to where the environment almost punishes the victim for the behavior that they had nothing to do with. They got taken advantage of, but they get punished here because we call them weak. We mistreat them. We call them boys. You let somebody do this and that to you. It doesn't matter how big the dude was. You know what I'm saying? We expect them to be able to take care of their business. And the truth is, most cases, that's not what happens. And then another thing that we do in here, if something like that does happen, we say that they wanted it. That's the conclusion that people come to in here, y'all. If he let that happen, he wanted it. And that's not right. You wouldn't dare say something like that about somebody out there, but I'm going to tell you why in here it's accepted. The reason that kind of rhetoric is accepted is because the people in here that are doing it, they feel at home. Everything in here is every man for himself. So if somebody allows that to happen to them, listen to what I'm saying, allows that to happen to them, that's because they wanted it. It's not true. It's a different set of standards in here versus out there. And the standards in here are based on twisted logic. Twisted logic. If somebody takes advantage of you, that's what it is. They took advantage. And ain't nothing right about that. But that's the mindset in here. So I'll say this to anybody out there that got a family member in here. Always talk to them and tell them, look, you can always be honest with me. If something happens to you in there, tell them. Make sure that they tell you about it so that you can be their advocate. Because a lot of times it's hard to even advocate for yourself in here. He was lucky that a lot of people that worked at the prison liked him, and they looked out for him just because he was a smaller dude. But a lot of times you got people in these institutions that don't like certain people, and they'll allow it to happen. And if it does happen, they won't do much about it. So you might have to be the advocate for your loved one. You may have to be the one that says, something happened to my loved one and y'all need to do something about that. So always keep that line of communication open and don't accept the nonsense in prison as being part of prison. We got to stop that. That's what makes these places violent. We accept that that's what it is in here. We got to quit that too, y'all. Just wanted to drop that on y'all, man, so y'all can understand a little bit of what goes on in here. You know, I don't want to get too lengthy about it and all this and that. I just wanted to drop that on you because the things that happen in here, man, hey, it becomes accepted because a lot of times we feel like we don't know what else to do. And that's what creates a lot of the problems in here. We don't really know what to do. And a lot of the decisions in here, a lot of the decisions that are made in here are made from a twisted logic, twisted point of view, and it allows people that have no intentions of changing, no hope of a better day tomorrow, to do the nonsense that they want to do. And if they are not allowed to do it out there, they should not be allowed to do it in here. Just saying, y'all. Just saying. This has been another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, and I say peace, y'all.